Hey, I'm Si. I'm the managing director and founder at Klarosity. We help busy founders, executives, leaders, ambitious professionals learn to meditate and bring some of the benefits of meditation into their work. I have used meditation for years and years. So I have a 15-year-long practice, which I leaned into on the back of a significant burnout. And I've spent 20 years in the corporate world, in financial services, in marketing, and probably experienced many of the kind of issues that we all can experience in a busy, high paced, high performance environment. When I started this business, I was really interested to try and understand um, how people felt about meditation, particularly UK leadership. And so I ran a survey of 300 senior professionals in the UK, and I wanted to really stress test whether this was something that people were leaning into and whether they understood. So today I'm going to talk you through those findings, which are not necessarily surprising to me, but might be surprising to you when you start to see the benefits that can be achieved through meditation. So the report was called the Untapped Asset 2026 Perceptions of Meditation and Performance. And one of our primary findings that was 87% of UK professionals are pigeonholing meditation as a sleep aid and ignoring the proven performance benefits. So in today's session, I'm going to kind of talk through those findings and also talk you through some of the benefits of meditation. So here we go. Quick work through of the executive summary. I think it's really interesting when you look at the UK versus the US. In the high performance environments of Silicon Valley and kind of elite sports in the States, and a little bit more in the UK now, particularly from an elite sport point of view, meditation is no longer viewed as a wellness perk, and it's deployed as a cognitive strategy to enhance neuroplasticity and sharpen decision making and build resilience. And it's got some real kind of highly structured and highly evidenced performance benefits. However, our data is suggesting that UK business culture has not really kept up with that. We commissioned independent research of 300 UK professionals, managers, and directors to understand how the British business community views meditation. And the results reveal a bit of a perception gap. So, whilst UK leaders are facing unprecedented burnout and productivity, they are actively ignoring one of the most evidence-based tools for solving it. And our key findings were kind of around this thing around the wellness trap. So 87% of respondents to our survey associated meditation primarily with relaxation or sleep. So people are just thinking it's there as a tool to just kind of unwind. But as you see, we'll go on, there are a lot more further benefits, performance enhancing benefits than just having a good nap. There's also a bit of a leadership void, so only 4% of respondents saw meditation as a tool for building leadership skills, and we'll come on to that further of what those benefits are. And there's a bit of an innovation deficit. So, one of the highly cited needs in the UK economy is more innovation, particularly when we look at the tech, AI that's going on across the world, in the States, in China. But in our economy that is demanding creativity and innovation, only 11% of our respondents associated meditation with increased innovation. Again, I'm going to come on to this and tell you how it works from that point of view. And there's also a bit of a skepticism barrier. So despite decades of research, 47% of respondents are still neutral or disagree that meditation can improve performance, despite reams and reams of studies showing that it actually can. So in this presentation, I'm just going to talk you through part one will be the data, part two will be the science versus the perception, part three I'll talk through a bit of the solution, and part four I'll just take you through the methodology statement of how we ran this study. So part one, as I mentioned, while Silicon Valley founders view meditation as a competitive advantage, our research suggests that the UK views it as a sedative, right? And the data reveals a real stark divide between the science of performance and the perception of business. So point one is there's a wellness monopoly. So we ask the question, when you hear the word meditation, what is the first benefit that comes to mind? And overwhelmingly, leaders are categorizing meditation alongside a warm bath or a glass of wine. They're seeing it as something to relax, and they fail to see it as active mental training. This is a real gap, So when you're at work and you're taking a wellness day, or you're being asked to go to a mindfulness class, yes, there are massive benefits from a kind of a wellness point of view, but we're totally ignoring the performance benefits. So 47% when they asked this question chose reducing stress, 38% chose relaxation or sleep, and only 14% of our respondents recognised that meditation could be useful in improving focus and concentration, which is where you start to see this perception gap come in. There was also an element around leadership. So the question was, which of the following do you associate with meditation? And again, 87% associated that with general relaxation, 61% associated with managing anxiety, but only 4% associated with stronger leadership skills. Now, there is a particular style or technique of meditation that is evidenced to prove that it can help with leadership. So technique called loving kindness, sometimes called metta, and widely known as compassion meditation training. Many find that a little bit woo, but actually it's been shown to light up the reward networks in our brain, make us more empathetic to our peers and the people that we lead. It really helps us to become a better leader in the workplace. And then we come back to this point around the innovation deficit. So again, which of the following do you associate with meditation? And, while innovation is consistently ranked as a top priority for CEOs, the data here in our study shows that leaders are totally ignoring the cognitive input required to produce that innovation. And they're viewing creativity as a fixed trait rather than a cognitive state they can access on demand. So only 16% of leaders associate meditation with better decision making, and only 11% associate meditation with enhanced creativity. And when we talk there about creativity, we're talking about innovation, we're talking about strategic thinking, the types of thinking that can take your business on to its next steps. And that's another area that meditation can really help us. So open awareness meditation has been proven to increase the volume of novel ideas that one person can have. So if you're in a role where you're having to be strategic, you're having to think, perhaps you're in a marketing role, perhaps you're in a corporate role where you're trying to find that next solution that's going to take your business on, open awareness meditation is one of those techniques that can really, really help you, but being completely ignored at the moment. And this is, the execution gap is where it gets really interesting. In our research, there was a 50% of respondents did believe that meditation can help performance in some way. So there is a recognition that people should be meditating, right? But only 12% of respondents practiced, and even fewer practiced once a week. So what do you think? There is a massive opportunity there, right? If we surveyed 300 people and only 12% are practicing it daily or often, there is a lot left on the table for there to be people to be improving their overall performance through meditation. So, just going to have a little look in part two at the science versus the perception. And opinion is divided, but the science isn't. And whilst 47% of leaders remain skeptical, neuroscientific research has already mapped the specific neural pathways that link meditation to executive function, resilience, and innovation. So we'll just take a little look at those now. So, three myths, one around focus, one around resilience, and one around innovation. And there are others, but we just broke this down to kind of come back to the main points. So the first one, the myth, meditation is just for relaxation. But it's not. The science shows that meditation helps to rewire the brain for focus. That's not to say that meditation can't be used for building resilience or for relaxation purposes, but there is much more. It's much deeper benefits to just that. And it was a really nice piece of research by Tang et al. In 2007 that just demonstrated that just 5 days of meditation practice significantly improved attention and conflict resolution scores in the participants. So the reality here is that you don't necessarily need to meditate to zone out or just to zone out, but you can use meditation to zone in. Myth 2 around resilience. So there's a bit of a myth out there that empathy is a weakness that can lead to burnout. But the science shows that compassion, which is a slightly different view on empathy, is a renewable performance resource. And the evidence here was a landmark neuroimaging study by Klimecki et al. In 2014 proved that whilst empathy activates the brain's pain centers, which can lead to distress and burnout, actually compassion training activates reward networks, which are effectively protecting leaders from burnout. So this isn't particularly well known in the workplace, but the distinction between the two can make a real difference. When you're being empathetic and you're feeling people's pain, it's a completely different neural circuitry to what happens when you feel compassion to somebody. So the difference between empathy is feeling someone's pain and taking that all in. Compassion is recognizing someone's pain, trying to help them with it, but protecting yourself from the burnout that comes with taking all of that on board. So the reality here is that sustainable leadership isn't about feeling for your team, but it's about having the resilience to be there for them and help them through what they're going through. And then myth 3 we found around innovation. So the myth here was that meditation is a soft skill with no hard ROI. But the science tells us that meditation does drive innovation strategy. So research by Colzatto et al. In 2012 found that this particular technique of open monitoring meditation specifically enhances divergent thinking, which is the cognitive process responsible for generating novel ideas and creative problem solving. So the reality here that meditation is not just a wellness perk, and it is a competitive advantage for strategic thinking. I will link to this study in the comments below, and I've kind of detailed here some of the kind of evidence and further reading which you might want to go on to. Everything we talk about is backed by rigorous academic studies that are peer reviewed. So what's the solution then to this? So we really need to think about meditation as moving beyond wellness and start to think how you might take a structured approach to meditation training. And we kind of feel that there is a real kind of critical missed opportunity for the UK business community, because whilst the majority of the leaders accept the science of mental training, very, very few have operationalized it as a performance discipline. And so what we're trying to do at Klarosity is bridge this execution gap, and we're moving beyond this kind of passive wellness narrative and working with a performance meditation approach. And our approach is all based on evidence-based meditation techniques. We're not making anything up here. We are working with meditation techniques that have been studied, they've been peer-reviewed, and they fall into kind of one of 5 categories within our training program, which is 1, reset, 2, fortify, 3, calibrate, 4, ideate, and 5, inspire. And this is a recurring training loop that helps us to improve performance across a number of areas within business. So I'm just going to talk through these very briefly. If you want more information on them, you can drop me a line, or you can pop onto the website and read more about us. So, but reset is all about regaining your physiological baseline, because many of us start our day at a bit of a deficit. So when we're working in high stakes environments, it can leave us in a state of chronic hyperarousal and physical tension. And this noise in our nervous systems means that we're kind of often attempting to make complex strategic decisions whilst your brain is physically diverted into this survival state, right? So, I'm sure we've all been there, periods of enhanced stress causing anxiety and not being able to think straight. And what we do here is we lean on two particular meditation styles. One is the relaxation response, which was developed by Benson and the team at Harvard. And this is a really nice technique just to reduce the heart rate, the blood pressure, and oxygen consumption. A really, really simple meditation and providing immediate recovery. But then in the long term, when we practice it, we're developing structural resilience in our brain. So this is the kind of foundation of the practice, if you like. Stage 2, or unit 2, is Fortify, where we talk about reclaiming cognitive bandwidth. So if you think about that, stage 1 as being a bit of a kind of instant gratification, if you like. It is the wellness piece. It helps us to relax. It helps us to unwind. Fortify is about training in mindfulness to improve mental clarity and develop a kind of decoupled response. So often we can come home from work, or we can be in a workplace, and we've got lots and lots of thoughts going around our brain. And we can get really, really caught up in those mental loops, and those can lead to burnout, and essentially not being able to think through things very clearly. So what mindfulness helps us to do is reduce that psychological distress by decreasing ruminative thoughts. And what it helps us to do is just recognize that those thoughts are thoughts without necessarily leaning into them or having to live them in that moment. And what that means is you can take a step back and look at, view those thoughts and see them as transient patterns, not having to get caught up in them. That can buy you a lot of space and time away from your own mind. Unit 3 is Calibrate, and this is where we go from that kind of resilience piece into real kind of performance enhancing benefits, right? So there was a study that by Killingsworth and Gilbert that documented that the human mind wanders nearly 47% of the time, which directly causes reduced performance and happiness. And happiness is important to all of us. But that's a major distraction and a direct cause of inefficiency within the workplace. And what we do here is we use a meditation technique called focused attention meditation to exercise the prefrontal cortex, which is the brain seat of higher order executive function. And it's a bit like a workout for the brain. And by strengthening this neural muscle, we can learn to deactivate the default mode network, which is that bit of the brain that is always wondering. It's the part of the brain that Killingsworth and Gilbert studied that causes our mind to wander. So there was also another study by Brewer et al. That showed that experienced meditation practitioners can significantly deactivate the default mode network. Again, that's the piece of the brain, our mind wandering engine. And it also demonstrated stronger functional connectivity with regions involved in cognitive control. Right, so what we're doing there is we're training our brain to be more focused, which improves our overall performance, providing precision focus, so it allows us to switch tasks more readily. It allows us to focus into deep work, and it also allows us to build attentional stability. So it helps us to build the capacity to filter out digital and mental noise for sustained periods of deep and productive work. Now, another really interesting study in this area confirmed that targeted training can significantly improve metacognitive accuracy, which is your ability to accurately monitor your own cognitive performance. So you can start to understand where you are perhaps not performing as well, or perhaps you're caught up in something and you need to take a step back into another area. And then we go into ideate, which is where we want to unlock strategic innovation. And under sustained stress, the mind can become really rigid, and you might find yourself relying on habitual kind of thinking and safe patterns rather than the novel or non-linear thinking required for genuine breakthroughs. And here we use open monitoring meditation, which is a practice that cultivates a distributed cognitive control state. And what it does is reduces the cognitive barriers and rigidity, allowing for broader, more creative conceptual jumps. So the performance benefit there is that we improve divergent thinking, and we can also improve insight accuracy. So we can increase the frequency of those kind of aha moments by reducing the influence of those habitual thought patterns on complex problem solving. And then a really important piece is inspire. So this is leading with sustainable influence, right? So being an ambitious leader requires high levels of empathy, but that empathy can actually lead to personal distress or depletion-led burnout. So without a buffer, the emotional load of managing a high-performing team can become unsustainable. And what we do here is we switch from empathy training into compassion training, such as loving kindness or metta. And what this does is this helps to protect from burnout. So we create a sustainable neurobiological buffer against the stresses of relational leadership. And we also improve our empathetic accuracy, which is the ability to correctly infer another person's thoughts and feelings from non-subtle verbal cues. So that's where we get to in the study. I hope you found that interesting. There's a little bit here about what we're trying to do, and I've also included a little bit about our methodology just so you can see where we went out to. But yeah, I hope you found that interesting. This is one of our first videos going on YouTube, so please be patient with the editing, but I just wanted to put this out there. Would love to hear your comments on what you've been working with meditation and what you do in the workplace. And yeah, I've been Si, and please reach out with any questions that you might have.